This show is sponsored by Sims Business Systems, Arizona's #1 family-owned technology boutique, serving your copy, print, IT, and teleconferencing needs since 1978. Smartify your business with Sims.
Hi there, I'm Shawn Sims Bradford, and I am the host of Exposing Entrepreneur Secrets, and this is the show where we get an inside peek into business owners' minds, souls, and hearts, and we learn the secrets to their success. I am wanting to first give a huge thank you to Sims Business Systems and Rico Americas Corporation for making this show possible with their sponsorship, so thank you. And I am thrilled to have in studio with us today Jared Simmons. Welcome.
Thank you. Very much glad to be here.
I am super happy you're here. Jared Simmons is with Simmons and Gottfried law firm. It's a law and mediation firm in the Scottsdale Air Park.
That's
correct?
Exactly right.
Yeah, Scottsdale Air Park. And Jared specializes in business law, drafting review contracts, family law, civil litigation.
Yes.
There we go. I was blending the words together. And we are going to really get into starting a new business. Jared has helped so many business owners start a business, move their business forward, and we are going to pick his brain. So thank you for allowing us to just get all that knowledge out of your head today.
Hopefully it's not all of it, but we'll try in this short period of time. I think we can cover some of it.
A fraction of it, I should say. Thank you, Jared.
Of course.
So where did your entrepreneur spirit first arise? Like, did you know as a little kid you wanted just to have your own business? When did you first know?
You know, my dad was very entrepreneurial. He owned several businesses, and my father was an orthodontist. And so that he kind of put it together. He took his money, he grew it, he invested in businesses. He always wanted to be his own boss, and he had a vision. And I thought that was really admirable, and so I tried to implement that as I became a professional.
Very nice. And when did you have was your current law firm your very first business, or did you start when you were younger with any smaller businesses?
You know, my brother and I have always kind of done some business stuff together, so he and I formed a company, but I've always knew I wanted to be a lawyer. I felt that having some pragmatic utilitarian knowledge was extremely important, and I just really like to argue, as my mother certainly and my wife would tell you. But I really thought it was a wonderful career, and it has been a wonderful career, and I've been a lawyer now for over 20 years, and I truly enjoy helping people form businesses and ride with them along the way. I kind of specialize more in small to medium-sized businesses, and that has given me a true appreciation of the entrepreneurial spirit, dealing with different people, the issues that come up as they move forward, and just guiding them along the way. So I've learned a lot from my clients as I've tried to educate them as well.
I love that. So when would somebody necessarily come to you when they were first starting a business, when they had the idea, or do they come to you when they're starting to grow a little bit more?
You know, it's both. A lot of times people will come to me because they need to choose what type of entity they want to move forward with. Do they want to be a limited liability company? Do they want to be a corporation? And especially if they have other people that will be owners as well, how they implement that decision-making process, and what happens if they want to sell their interest, or what happens if they have wives, nobody, frankly, or husbands, that nobody wants their spouse to come in and say, now I'm involved with you and I didn't plan it, or to somebody to sell their interest to somebody they don't know about. So there's a lot that it is entailed in that. So I hope my preference is always that they come to me early,
yes,
so we can have these discussions. You can have the best idea, but if you have a bad plan, then that idea is going to fail. And that's what I've seen, unfortunately, so many times. People come to me, especially because I do a lot of litigation, people come to me when there's a problem. And if they come to me before that, you can normally draft around those issues.
I love how you said that, because it's, we're a right brain, left brain human beings. And we've got, of course, our logical planning side, but a lot of entrepreneurs are just bursting with these creative ideas, and they want to bring these business ideas to life. But then we do need that planning and the logistics and really almost an exit strategy, when you do want to eventually sell, or you do want to eventually pass down to a child, or like you said, how do you even want to form it?
Yes.
You help them make those decisions, and you even let them know all the different options they might not even know are available to them.
And I think that in any good business starting out, you want three people. You have to have the owner, you have to have a lawyer, and you need to have somebody who has an accounting experience, normally a CPA. If you have those three legs of a stool, you're normally going to be great. And I think that those are always, whenever you're taking planning into account, you need the legal aspect, your tax aspect, and your financial planning aspect, and of course the person who has the vision and the leader who's always going to be your owner.
And I love that. So as even a single business owner, you're still forming your team. You still have all this support when you do choose the legal leg of the stool and the financial leg of the stool. That's a really good way to think of it.
Yeah, and a lot of business owners make the mistake of thinking they have to be everything to everyone, and they really shouldn't. I know that lawyers are expensive and CPAs can be expensive sometimes, but the truth is that what they protect you from and how they protect your personal assets and how they do tax planning for you and show you all the strategies that you can follow, setting you up for success in the future. It truly is an investment. Most of the time our fees are tax deductible. So you really want to look at bringing those people on board. Don't make bad decisions. And the other thing people do, unfortunately, is they get on the web. And it's like our conversation where we started is that, I can't convey everything I know in 20 plus years of practicing law. People try to, there's a coffee cup one of my friends has that says, your Google search does not replace my law degree. and it's so true. People think they can find the answer easily. And I highly recommend people do research on the internet, get a basic understanding of different things. But when it comes to specialized knowledge, don't replace what is an otherwise good decision by finding somebody that knows more than you, truthfully. Focus on your business. Focus on growing it and bringing customers in and making yourself money. Because if you don't, then that's where the problems come in. It's bad planning.
And I love that. Focus on your vision, your talents, and what you're good at. And the things that you frankly don't even want to do, that's where you find support and help.
Always.
And that's great advice. What are some challenges that you see then? So we have a new business owner. They do come and do the planning with you and they get themselves set up. What are some challenges, because I want you to help us dig out, that you see in that first maybe 3 years of somebody starting a business?
Really not putting agreements in place. I always tell people when they come to me that if you're going to do business with somebody and they're going to be an owner with you, do business with people you know, like, and trust. Mm-hmm. And people don't really understand how important having all three of those things together are. And what I mean by that is trust means you will memorialize your understanding with somebody else in a writing that helps resolve problems. And so a lot of times people go, oh, we've never had a fight in our entire life. We do this, we do that, da-da. But when money enters the picture, it always can cause a problem. It causes problems in marriages, and it will cause a problem in a business relationship, which is frankly your other marriage. People, yes. You're worrying about all these things. You just have, it's all the bad stuff without the kids and the other good parts of being married. But when you're with somebody, and sometimes more than you're ever going to be with your spouse or other loved one, it's really important to have those understandings in place. And you get to do one thing you can't do with your spouse, which is put it in writing and expect the other person in advance to say, here's what we're going to agree to solve problems, to understand who's going to be in control. How, if we have a dispute, how we can resolve that dispute without resulting to lawyers and problems and getting angry with each other. It's really a prophylactic way to make sure that your business continues forward with the right vision. And I have all these little things that I tell people all the time, but I always say, if the Beatles could have just worked out their problems and gotten just one more album out of them, yes. Wouldn't that be great? And if you have a good plan in place and a good way to understand things like an operating agreement for an LLC, then that lays out for you how disputes happen, what happens if you want to sell your interest and the other person says no, or you want to bring somebody else in. Those are where we understand are the common parts where people fight. And if you have all of those set up forward, who makes decisions for the entity on a daily basis, how much they're restricted from making decisions. If you want one person to be, a lot of times in a two-party business, one person's the person who goes out and brings in all the business, and the other guy sits back or lady sits back and makes the financial decisions.
Right.
That and understanding how to divide those services helps you, because now one person's in charge of this, and if you know, like, and trust them, you know, like, and trust their judgment. You know, like, and understand they always have the best interests of the entity and their partners, and they take that into account. And so hopefully you take your operating agreement, you throw it in a drawer, you never have to look at it again, because everybody so understands what their vision is for the company. Sometimes they don't. And if you have 50-50 decision making and you want to go left and I want to go right, how do you make a decision without tearing the entity apart? Sometimes it's easiest to just decide you're going to flip a coin.
Right. But I love this advice. You're giving us another visual of a stool, basically. You know, we have these three parts. Go into business with people that you know, like, and trust. But what you're telling us is don't do a handshake, that old-fashioned handshake. You know, we think we're so excited and we think this is going to be amazing and this is going to work so well and we're going to make all this money and we're going to have fun. And you let that excitement overrule the logistics. And the advice you're giving is so sound. Sit down, make an agreement. And so when you do have some sort of disagreements, because come on, it's going to happen, right? We're human beings. We're not always going to agree. You go back to that agreement to help you move forward.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that is really good advice.
Yeah, and the other thing is if people change over time, your business changes over time, your relationships change over time. And so how you first saw your business may not be where it's going. You know, things can happen and you see a whole line of service that you hadn't contemplated originally, and being able to be nimble and make effective decision making can literally be critical to the functionality of your business. So again, having those decision making processes in place is so incredibly important.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would also think, Jared, that would extend to probably client relationships as well. It'd probably be extremely, I would think you help with that as well.
All the time.
In terms of contracts between business and client, making sure everything is laid out, because we all like to know what to expect.
Right.
If something goes right or if something goes wrong or if something's unplanned, we can turn to that agreement to see how to move forward.
Well, and even more than that, you want to make sure that everybody's on the same page with what the agreements are. It is not, and what I mean by that is not just you make me an offer to buy something and I'm willing to pay you for it. When is it going to be delivered? How many of it is going to be delivered? Who's responsible for shipping it? Who's responsible for damage? You know, it's all the things that go beyond that to make sure you don't have a fight, to make sure that everybody understands what I'm agreeing to. If I want to buy your cup and I say, well, I just want to buy a cup, but I did not identify, well, and you send me black cups, but I wanted white cups, now we have a fight. We wanted a deal, but we didn't have it planned out. So we had a different idea of what the deal was. So just putting it in writing and try to be as detailed as possible within reason solves a lot of problems. Then there would be no misunderstandings. And that's what your written agreements do most of the time, is resolve misunderstandings.
You know what I love about this conversation, Jared, is you are an attorney and you have a lot of experience as a litigation attorney, meaning things didn't go well.
Correct.
Yet you are here giving advice on how things can go well so that you don't have to help with litigation.
And that's how actually I became much more of a contract drafter, is that I started off as a business litigator. I was seeing all the problems that would go on with these contracts. I said, God, if they had just written it this way, or if they just had this language in there, it would be a lot better. So I studied contract drafting. Lawyers have to take continuing legal education. I went to classes on it, or read books on it. And I just loved the art of putting a deal together that's also creative. Sometimes, you hit an impasse with somebody, we'll never get a deal done. That's where my mediation training comes in, and it also benefits me as well. Being able to find an alternative path to get to the same goal is also really important sometimes. So where some people go, that's a total deal breaker, and I go, really? Is it really a deal breaker? Because you have to think about what you're losing here. Maybe there's a way to draft around that problem. Let's be creative. You can get what you want and I can get what I want without it really being a true deal breaker. And that's why I focus on the drafting part of it as well. It's just really interesting to me.
And I can tell too, and again, that's a huge service that you're doing for business owners, is really helping with expectations and keeping everybody working together. But it can also tell you have a huge passion for really negotiation.
I love it.
Yeah. Where does that passion come from?
I am the oldest of 5. And so I have a brother and 3 sisters. And so if I did not learn the art of negotiation, I would have been eaten alive. So I had to learn that very quick. And I also have 5 children. So I always have to constantly negotiate with them and find the best path forward. Otherwise, I have screaming children.
I have 3 children and my oldest daughter, and I'm the oldest in my family as well. And last night, my oldest daughter was negotiating like hell to do her best to get her brother to take her old backpack so that she could be the one to get the new backpack, because she got a new one last year and he didn't. And I told her, and I'm like, I should have wrote this down, my dear, darling daughter. When I bought you this very expensive backpack that lasts a lifetime, according to the marketing, we agreed that this was going to be a backpack for all of junior high.
Yes.
But I failed to put it in writing. She's like, Mom, new year, new backpack.
Exactly. See, you had a misunderstanding of what lifetime really means.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Lifetime for her meant my whole 5th grade year.
That's right. Teenagers' views of everything are probably completely skewed. Their brains haven't fully developed yet. It's awful.
So do you do any kind of agreements with your children, any sort of contracts in your home life?
It's so funny because my children, I've always been somebody who gives my children choices. Like, for example, they didn't want to eat dinner. So, okay, that's fine. You don't have to eat your dinner, but that means that you're not going to have TV for an hour. So you get to decide which one you want to choose from. So that's the king of me making a deal. So I'm always making a deal with them. And they get super mad at me all the time.
But it works, doesn't it?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, because I don't believe in just punishing you. But you're just going to go to your room if you don't eat your dinner. Now, I want them to exercise choices. I want them to always understand that their opinion matters and they're important. But most of the time, my opinion matters more. But if you can do it nicely, it makes a huge difference.
You're right on. I find I do that a lot at home. Just last night, my son, first day of school today, right?
Yes.
Son would not get in the shower. He just would not. And again, it's bumping up against there's no choice, right? I don't want to get in the shower. So finally we said to him, you can get in the shower now or at 6 a.m. versus waking up at 6:30 a.m. He goes, I choose 6 a.m. We're like, okay, when we wake you up at 6 a.m., don't complain. And you know what? It worked. We woke him at 6 a.m. He jumped in the shower.
You'd be surprised how often that works truly in business as well, is that you open people up and say, well, here's all your options. And those options may be options that sometimes you chose. Now, a lot of people will see through that, but having options there and letting people choose makes them feel like they're not back up against the wall, that they actually can move forward and there's a negotiation going on. And that's why most lawyers, I've never been in a negotiation ever for settlement conference or anything else where a lawyer will give you, here's my final number right off the bat. Because they know there has to be room to negotiate a little bit to make both sides feel like they got something. And that's the secret to really getting a good relationship.
And let's talk about that with the entrepreneurs that you work with, the entrepreneurs that are listening. Let's break down that art for them. You are an absolute expert at that. So an entrepreneur that is starting out and presenting their prices for maybe it's their very first presentation, they're coming to the pricing part. How would you kind of coach them on how to do a back and forth negotiation?
That becomes a little bit more different because it depends on a few things. It becomes whether or not you're a service-oriented business or whether you're producing a widget. And if you're producing a widget, then you know that your cost to manufacture and process and develop and all those things are sunk into that widget.
Makes
sense. So you have to recover those costs. So you can negotiate, but if you and this is a real key point, and I've had lots of clients do this, they want the business so bad. They get desperate that they do things where they're going to lose money or they do things again, then they figure, we'll fix it later. Don't do that. Walk in there, and for a negotiation, walk in there knowing what your absolute bottom line number is. So I tell clients this all the time when we do negotiations for settlement conferences. You have to think of the number where 1 penny is where you would not go. I say, literally, I said, if they said, fine, we'll agree to your number minus a penny. You're saying, no. It really has to be that kind of thinking because you can't afford in business to be losing money. The whole reason why we're all in business is to make money. Most people don't have the resources to just do it for fun.
Right.
We're doing it because we have to pay our light bill, our mortgages, put food on the table. And so if you deprive yourself of revenue, then you're going to make a huge mistake. But also understanding your market, understanding what your buyer's willing to pay, what your product is really worth in the marketplace, all of that goes into your pricing strategy. And if you're a service-oriented provider like you are and I am, where we don't produce a widget, we basically come up with what we're doing out of our brains, then you have to say, okay, well, what is the market going to pay for my services? And you have a little bit more flexibility, but I still have overhead. I have to pay for books. I have to pay for insurance. I have to pay for all those things that come into being a lawyer. And if I'm pricing myself too far below the market, I'm not going to make any money. And that's not why I'm doing this.
Absolutely.
So
I want to restate that because it is such a golden nugget for our listeners. Thank you for this, Jared. You have to know your bottom line. Right. You have to know that drop dead price and you commit to it because then you're committing to yourself,
correct,
your business, your growth, your vision, and you do not drop below it. And I love that. You don't even drop below a penny.
Right.
Because it's not about the penny. It's about staying in line with your values, your vision, and it's important to make a profit.
Well, and to be honest with you, it is about that penny, because that penny can sometimes make the difference between you making a profit and you not making a profit.
That's true. Good
so
point.
if you have economies of scale, or you're saying, look, you're buying 10 million of my widgets, then that means that, maybe you can drop that penny because I'll still make a profit. But to somebody else who's buying less or whatever, you can't drop that penny because you don't have enough resources to be able to take that hit. So no, all of the factoring that goes into pricing is really, really critical. You can have the best product in the world, but if people can't afford it, it's not going to be getting you anywhere. People are like, I'd love to have it, but no.
I love that, because then you can't continue on for other people.
Right. Otherwise, everybody would drive a Rolls Royce.
I love this. Thank you. I want to know a few more tidbits of inspiration, because I know you have so much that you would share. Let's say you have an entrepreneur in front of you and they've just had some hardships, Jared. They've been in business for a couple of years. They've had some tough runs, but they still believe in their vision. What would you tell them to help them to continue to move forward? The stock market's a good teacher for that, which is past performance is not going to indicate your future performance. Yeah.
But you learn from the past.
Yes.
And that's the most important thing. You say, okay, well, what are the trends? What did I make mistakes on in the past? And really recognize what your patterns are where you've made mistakes. Was it because you didn't have agreements in place? You didn't have good agreements in place? Is it because you trusted the wrong people, or did, whatever it is? Look at what those things are that you made a mistake on and learn from your failures. Your failures all the time, and you can look at every single entrepreneur that's ever made billions of dollars, Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, all these other guys, they will all say the same things, which is we learned what we did wrong before, and they've all had failures. Mm-hmm. You can't be so afraid to fail that you're not afraid to take chances or to move forward with something, and especially, like you said, your vision. So you really have to focus on not making those mistakes again, learning what you did wrong in the first place, and not recreating history over and over and over again. That's the definition of insanity.
Yeah.
Doing the same thing over. So you want to constantly modify and really learn from those mistakes. Don't be so caught up in your principles or your vision that you're not afraid to change them to make sure you're not constantly pursuing a losing strategy.
That is so incredibly valuable. So you first said, don't be afraid to fail. Don't let it freeze you in place. Keep moving forward, but learn from those failures so you don't keep repeating them.
Right.
And move forward. Just keep moving forward, but learn as you go along and change it up. That's super, super motivating. Thank you. I have to know, before I let you go, I think it's so important that we all do just recharges in our life. What do you do to just recharge, to turn off the thinking mind and have fun?
That's funny that you say that. I'm a gigantic dork, so I like going to the movies. I like playing video games with my kids. I like hanging out with my wife. We go on date nights all the time, things like this.
Nice.
And we've made decisions that we kind of because she owns her own business too, and we work a lot. So it's really important for us to honestly to sometimes just put those phones aside and say, and evaluate the priorities in your life and say, nothing's more important than your children and your loved ones. So if you are spending all of your time focusing on making money and doing your business, you're not paying attention to literally the most important things in your life. And so for me, it's that.
Thank you. That just burst my heart wide open. And it's just such beautiful advice. Just put the phones away for a little bit and focus on the people that you love.
And it's really hard, especially kids.
Yeah.
We'll go out to dinner and they want to spend time on their phone. And it's really easy for the parents to sit there and say, oh, well, while they're on their phone, they're actually being good, so we can just sit here and relax for a minute. Sometimes that's okay.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's
little
just
balance,
okay.
right?
Yeah,
little balance. Little balance.
Yeah.
Little balance is a good thing. Jared, people that want to get a hold of you, that have questions, that want to hire you, that want to work with you, how can they get a hold of you? Well,
my office is located in North Scottsdale in the Air Park. You can always call me at 480-998-1500. That is my office number. You can email me at my first name, which is Jared, Jared, at S as in Sam, G as in George, lawaz.com. So Jared at sglawaz.com. Those are normally the best ways to get me. And I have a website, www.sglawaz.com. And we will put all of that information in the notes section of the podcast. Jared, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your secrets to success. Thank you. It was my pleasure. Thank you for having me. It is my pleasure. Thank you all for listening. Thank you, Sims and Rico, for sponsoring this show. And to all of you listening, please subscribe to our podcast. Please like it and please share it with a friend. And I'll see you here next time.